All right, well, let's get rolling. I'm excited to be here. I can't believe we got hundreds of people attending today, so this is really exciting. And I hope you enjoy what we're going to talk about here, or enjoy maybe the better outcome of what we're going to talk about here. And I like the title. For me, this spoke to a lot of patients that I've seen, how to leave your house without ever having to worry about IBS again, because I know there are a lot of people who are in that situation. And that's what I want to talk about today. So I'm excited to be here. And hold on, I got to get one thing working. There we go. And looking forward to your guys' comments, and we'll do questions at the end. And so I'm just going to get rolling. All right. So if you have been, trying to figure out your IBS, and I'm guessing for a lot of people who've been watching this, they've got digestive problems, they've been trying to sort it out. And I want you to know that if you have failed up to this point to solve your IBS or other digestive problems, it's not your fault. There's a lot of information out there, a lot of stuff that is just not going to be very helpful, and it can be totally confusing. And so many times that is just complete information overload, and it's hard to know the good from the bad. And that's why you haven't had success. That's what keeps you from being successful. And that's okay. It's not your fault. If you've been concerned that there is no cure for your digestive problem, or for IBS and other digestive problems, I want to put those fears to rest as well. You can do this, and you just need the right kind of a person, the right kind of attention in order to help you and help you understand why you're having these symptoms. IBS sucks, doesn't it? I mean, these just really suck, because whether it's that you don't want to leave the house, you're fearful that you're going to have an accident, you're in pain maybe all the time. A lot of IBS sufferers are. You might have unpredictable flare-ups. You never know when they're going to hit. Maybe you can't eat, or you don't eat just to prevent a flare-up. It stresses you out. It just completely disrupts your life. And then you feel like nobody understands it. Am I right? Right? I mean, it's just crazy, because you feel like, well, I'm all alone. And even your doctor and your gastroenterologist don't seem to be able to provide you the kind of help that you really need. So if you've ever thought that the care should be better, or that the medical system didn't really seem to get what you were going through and weren't able to help you, you're probably right. They don't benefit as much as you would think, and it's not something that they're focused on, unfortunately. However, I want you to know that I know you probably have a dream, to get over these symptoms and to get over your IBS, and I want to show you how to make that happen. So that's what we're here for today. All right. So how I want you to look at this is there are two different kinds of people out there, right, who are watching this. Some of you have had lots of tests. You've seen lots of doctors. You've had lots of tests, and you've tried all kinds of diets. I want to teach you what to do next. Now, some of you might be in the opposite boat. You might say, you know what? I haven't. I'm just new at this. IBS is new. I'm still trying to sort this out. That's fine too. I'm going to try to save you a lot of time and energy avoiding doing things that don't work, that won't help you solve your IBS and help you recover the years that you can easily lose to not getting this problem taken care of. Does that sound like a good plan? I hope so. So during this session, my goal is to get you to believe that seeing an IBS specialist is the key to solving your IBS. So I'm going to show you the framework to do that and make it simple for you and help you achieve the results that you're looking for. All right. So who am I anyway? I'm Dr. Stephen Wangen. I am the founder and medical director of the IBS Treatment Center. I'm here in Seattle, Washington. We also have a clinic in Los Angeles. And I have been focused and specialized on IBS for about 20 years now. Founded the IBS Treatment Center over 15 years ago. And we've seen over 10,000 IBS patients. And that's all we do. When I say that's what we specialize in, that's what we specialize in. That's what we do, is help people with digestive problems. And I want to share with you my story of how I got here. Why did I get into all of this? Well, to go way back, I had IBS, and I had it who knows how far back. I know I had digestive problems as a kid. I definitely had them as a teenager. I had IBS. And I saw doctors, right? Like anybody, I went to the doctor. I saw doctors, and I was incredibly disappointed at the end result, because I would go in and the doctor would check me out, right? They do the doctor things that doctors do. And I would walk away. They'd be, well, you're fine. You're healthy. You're young. You're fit. And I would essentially get nothing. And I thought, well, maybe I need to try another doctor. So I'd go to another doctor, right? And same outcome, same response. Maybe they'd say, well, try this diet. And so I tried this diet, and still nothing really changed. Then I went to a natural doctor, and I said, hey, well, what should I do? And I got some supplements, and they didn't help. I didn't get any better. And I thought, man, this is really confusing, because you're seeing people who you know are really smart, right? You know doctors are smart. You know that they know a lot. They've done a ton of training, gone to school forever. And you're thinking, why am I not getting better? Why don't they know how to help me? And it's really super confusing, and it can be depressing as well, because it's just demoralizing. I felt hopeless. I was like, well, I'm just going to be living this way. It must be normal. I don't know, or else I'm just totally weird. I'm just unique. There's nobody else like me. And I'm stuck. So that's where I was a long time ago. And it was really frustrating. But I'm also really super stubborn. And I thought, this doesn't make a lot of sense. There's got to be a cause. And I thought, it's not unlike fixing your car. And not that the human body is as simple as a car, but it's not so different, right? If you went to an auto mechanic and they couldn't fix your car, you wouldn't just say, well, I'm just going to trash the car and drive it off a cliff or whatever. I'm not going to just get rid of it. I'm going to find somebody who can fix my car, because there's somebody who can fix your car. You just got to find the right person. And there's got to be a cause for why it's not working. And I thought, the same thing's got to be true with my health. There's got to be a cause. There's always got to be one. And so I held on to that. And I still, to this day, I hold on to that. That's like my underlying philosophy, is there's got to be a cause, right? If we're going to work hard enough, and look for it, we're going to find it. So as stubborn and as committed as I am, so I went to medical school, and I was fascinated with medical school and wanted to go to medical school. And I was like, okay, let's do this. Let's go to medical school. Let's figure this out. They got to teach you in there, right? If you're just paying attention in the right class or something, right? So I'm spending years and years studying and going to classes and reading textbooks and everything. And I don't find out what is causing IBS. Basically it's like, well, we don't know the cause. And they don't even address it. And I was like, this is crazy. Wait, I'm in medical school. And then the light bulb started to go off of, okay, I get why my doctor didn't know what to do. Why they didn't know how to treat IBS, because it's not in there. It's not in school. I'm not even kidding. I'm going to show you a book I've got. This is actually a 2-volume set. And I've got this huge textbook from when I was in medical school. And each book is over 1,000 pages. I thought, well, it's got to be in there, right? I'm going to read this thing. So I did. So I read it, and I took gastroenterology as a course. And I was like, it's not in there. And it drove me crazy, right? Thousands of pages. I'm not getting any answers. So it's really bizarre. So it's not your fault, right? If you're not getting answers, it's not your fault. And it's not even your doctor's fault. They just don't know. So of course, I'm still super stubborn. So I'm like, I'm going to keep working on this. I'm going to try to figure this thing out. And I kept at it, and I kept working on it. And when I graduated, I started just seeing lots of digestive patients, because I wanted to. I was like, I got to keep working with digestive patients who have all kinds of digestive symptoms and have IBS. And then I started to work with them. And as I started to work with them, I learned more and more. And I started to look for answers as opposed to assume that there wasn't an answer. And I kept looking, and then I started having success. And then a patient would get better. And I go, hey, that's awesome. I learned something there. And then I'd see another patient, and then they would get better. And then I'd see more patients, and I keep helping them. And I figured out my own IBS as well, and I cured that, and I haven't had IBS for 20 plus years. And it wasn't easy, because it's not easy just figuring out IBS, because it's not one simple answer. However, I found that if I really worked at it, I could do it. And so pretty soon I was helping lots of people with IBS, and I then created the IBS Treatment Center. So now you're thinking, okay, that's great, but you don't want to go to medical school. And of course, it didn't help me anyway. You're not me. So you're like, how can I, what can I get from all this? Because you're just tired of it, right? You don't want to think about IBS, even though it's likely impacting a huge number of things that you do, maybe everything that you do. A lot of people, when they get up in the morning, it's the first thing on their mind, because they have to plan around it, or they have a special routine to take care of it in the morning, or they're worried that it's going to affect their car drive to somewhere, or they'll ruin their meeting, or that they're going to miss school, or that they're not going to be able to go out and socialize with their friends, right? Or it's going to wreck your vacation, something like that. So it's all consuming. And of course, you probably have a similar experience to what I had. You go to the doctor, go to the gastroenterologist, and I had a colonoscopy, right? And they go, oh, hey, here's a polyp, and they take it out, and then you're like, well, that's nice. What about my IBS? It's still there, right? Because colonoscopies don't solve that. So maybe you tried some medication, or you tried a diet, and then you still have IBS. So I had to be very, very different in order to help people. I had to do things that the medical system wasn't doing, that they weren't encouraging me to do, that insurance companies weren't encouraging me to do and didn't want me to do. I had to go beyond the normal standard of care for IBS. And in order to truly solve it, I really had to make some scary decisions. Like, I had to totally sort of cut myself off and just fly in the face of the way things are done. And it was a tough choice. It was super crazy. I remember doing this over 15 years ago, thinking, wow, am I going to just launch an IBS treatment center when the standard of care is, no, you can't help people with IBS, and you're not going to be able to solve that problem for them. And who's going to support me, and who's going to criticize me? And I was really worried about that. But I knew that if I didn't do it, I was going to compromise, and I was going to provide lousy care. It wasn't going to help people the way I knew they could get help. And I was going, and I had done too much. I had gone through too many years of trying to understand these things in order to just sell myself short and sell my patients short. So in 2005, like I said, I created the IBS Treatment Center, and I didn't know what would happen. I didn't know if we'd make it. I didn't know if I'd be criticized, but I knew that I was going to have to try to stand on my own 2 feet and just do it. And I literally spent my life savings and thought, okay, this is going to be great. People are going to love it. They're going to love me. And the thing is, nobody knew that I existed. I opened my doors. I'm like, okay, here I am. Come see me. And I had a nice website. But now I realized I was competing with the medical system. I was competing with everybody. They weren't sending me patients. They're like, yeah, you're just a quack. I'm like, but I'm not. But I'm helping people here. But they didn't care. Nobody cared. I mean, that wasn't it. Nobody said, well, what's the outcome of your patients? Why are you able to help them? It was just like, whatever. You're just the IBS Treatment Center. We're not going to bother with you. And in the first year, I lost money. And in the second year, I lost more money. And that's pretty scary. It's not any fun not bringing home money to support your family. The third year, though, finally, we broke even. And that was pretty exciting, because I was like, geez, I'm going to either have to end this all, or we gotta make this work. And patients were starting to come, but it was still very stressful. It was very frustrating. And the patients were getting better, but I wasn't able to build a lot of momentum. It wasn't like the media was going, hey, that's so great. We're so excited that you're doing this. There was none of that, and I couldn't attract it. I'm trying to figure out how to run a business and not just help people. And I was just this outlier. I was like on this island. But then it started to pick up, and I started seeing more and more patients. And lo and behold, it wasn't too long. It was by about year 5. We had seen patients from every single state in the United States, and lots of countries. And then we had seen patients ultimately from over 30 different countries. And the stories were just incredible, right? Every patient came in and they would say, you know, wherever I've gone, I haven't gotten the care that I needed. And this would include, I had patients who've been to the Mayo Clinic. I've had multiple patients who've been to the Mayo Clinic, the Cleveland Clinic, UCLA, all these places that we all know do a lot of high quality care, but they weren't able to help people with IBS. And you know, and the same thing, every country, they'd say, you know, we just don't have the kind of care that we need. And it wasn't different. It was the same thing. They were not getting help for their IBS. And they had been to lots of doctors, right, and had lots of tests, and seen a lot of really good doctors. You know, a lot of them would say, wow, I saw the best doctor, you know, ever, and some big names that you may have heard of. And yet, you know, same thing. They were working with that in that same system, that same paradigm. So we created a system. We had to create something different where the patient truly did come first and where the outcome was super important. Not, hey, I just do this and cross my fingers and hope that my patients get better, but they need to get better because that's the proof that we're actually doing the right thing. And if they're not getting better, then we're missing something. So that's what we based it on. And since then, we've had over 10,000 IBS sufferers, you know, not literally come through our doors because we do a lot of virtual medicine as well, but we've seen over 10,000 patients. So thank you for listening to my story. I want to start next. I want to share with you what I call the 3 secrets of solving IBS. And these are things that are really, hopefully, paradigm shift changing. And we'll talk about each one. But secret number 1 is hacking the stress and IBS connection. And we'll get into that, how to solve IBS without actually worrying about having to de-stress. Secret number 2 is I want you to know that you should be giving up less to solve IBS, not more. And I'll explain that too, because that's a really interesting one. And secret number 3 is I call it hacking the medical system. I think that hacking is such a silly phrase, but you know, it really works in this case, I think too. How to get better, even if you've already seen lots of doctors, right, and had lots of tests. So let's look at this as secret number 1, hacking the stress and IBS connection. So what do I mean by that? Well, a lot of my patients, you know, and a lot of you, I bet, if you've heard this, let me know, you've been told that stress is the huge key to solving your IBS. And you probably know that stress makes it worse. I mean, right? It doesn't make it better. It makes it worse. So you're dealing with this and you're thinking, okay, I've got to work on my stress. Stress is going to be, you know, something that I've got to really focus on. And what I would challenge you, I've seen so many patients where this has gone on, where they have very stressful lives. And once they get better and the IBS is gone, they still have stressful lives. And it wasn't the stress that was causing the IBS. I think of one in particular. I can think of a bazillion stories like this, but an airline pilot. And, you know, that's a fairly stressful job. And, you know, you're thinking, wow, well, is that what's causing my IBS? And in this case, we solved his IBS and he still had the same job. Nothing changed there. I didn't change his stress levels. I changed his IBS. And I think really that IBS causes way more stress in most cases than stress causes IBS. Because IBS is a stressful thing. I mean, it's affecting a lot of things, right? So IBS is a big deal in that stress world. And that's what I mean by hacking this connection. We got to get over this, hey, it's all just the stress, or if the stress is making it worse, it doesn't mean the stress was the underlying cause of the problem. Secret 2, give up less, not more. And I think that's something that's really important because that's something people worry about a lot. They think, man, if I solve my IBS, I'm going to have to give up something that I really like. And they're often forgetting all the stuff that they're already giving up. Because if you're probably giving up all kinds of foods, I mean, are even just the generic recommendations, which we don't use, by the way, but generically, if you look up IBS, what do they tell you? Well, don't drink coffee, don't drink alcohol, don't drink sodas, don't eat chocolate, don't eat fried fatty foods, don't do these things. Well, you're giving up all that stuff. Is it working? Probably not. It may be helping a little bit because you're just not irritating the problem, but it's probably not curing the problem. And maybe giving up other things, right? But this is called managing your IBS, not solving or curing your IBS. And that's not my goal. That's not what I think your goal should be. I mean, you should strive higher. You can hit way higher than that. And we have people on our team who actually help people get more things back into their diet. And so that's a key component of solving IBS. Same thing with your lifestyle, right? You're missing out on social events and trips and avoiding things, or missing work meetings, or avoiding dating. I hear that's another big one, right? Like you're like, shoot, how am I going to do this? You're giving up all kinds of things. And what I want to do, and I want your goal to be, is to get things back into your life, not take more things out, but get more back than you are missing. And that's a huge goal. I think that's a big, big secret that gets missed in IBS. All right. And then this third one. Oops, it didn't switch slides. There we go. Hopefully I didn't hit it twice. And a big delay here. But hacking the medical system. So how do you get better, even if you've already seen lots of doctors and had lots of tests? And we've already talked about this a little bit, right? I've alluded to this, is that you've seen lots of doctors, you've had lots of tests, but unfortunately, those doctors are not IBS specialists. So they're doing lots of good things, and they're ruling out lots of other stuff, and they're doing the best that they can, but that's not going to get you an answer for your IBS. So you have to go beyond that in order to get the results that you really want when it comes to IBS. All right, so now you've seen, right, that the stress from secret number one is not really the big issue that we need to be worried about. That in secret number two, right, we want you to give up less, not more. And in secret three, that even though you may have seen doctors and you're going to really smart people, that is not an obstacle to actually getting better and to curing your IBS. Do you think that you could be successful solving it? I hope so. I hope you feel like you can be successful solving your IBS, because I don't want you to give up hope. I don't want you to lose faith that you can do this. So that's my goal for you. So one of the things, though, is you're probably thinking, okay, well, my IBS is different. There's probably some of you thinking that, right? Going, why? But because there's different types of IBS. There's IBS-C, which is IBS constipation. There's IBS-D, which is IBS diarrhea. There's IBS-M, which is mixed. You could have both constipation and diarrhea. There's IBS that is literally none of those and is just abdominal pain. There's gas. There's bloating. You can have nausea with it. You can do all these things or have all these different symptoms. So yes, you're right. There are lots of different forms of IBS, and that is not an obstacle to solving the problem. It's just that different people have lots of different symptoms, and that's the way IBS is. So even though your IBS very well could be different, and a lot of people, it varies a lot, that is not an obstacle to solving this problem. Another one that you might be thinking is that I've tried lots of supplements, right? I've taken all kinds of natural things, and I've tried lots of supplements. And I got to tell you, there are thousands of supplements out there. Now, you may not even need any of them. Frankly, that might not be the solution to your IBS. So that's not an obstacle. And there are so many different ones that it's almost impossible to know what might be the right thing for you. And even if you might pick the thing that's pretty close to the right thing, it might not be the right quality or the right dose. You might not take it for the right length of time, all that. It's not an obstacle. I mean, that's just another thing that an IBS specialist deals with and is an expert in. You might be thinking, you know what, there's no cure for IBS. Some of you out there still probably don't believe, like, there's no cure for IBS. What do you mean? You can't solve this. And I can tell you, if you keep going to the same kind of people, you're probably right. You're probably not going to find the cure for IBS. But on the other side of that is that there is no one cure, because somebody might say, well, just tell me what the cure is already. you know what? It's not like that. There is no one cure where I can just say, hey, everybody just go do this, like cut whatever gluten out of your diet or something, and your problems are all going to be solved. It's not that simple. Everybody's different. So you need somebody who's a specialist in helping you figure out what is that difference? What are you going to need to do in order to solve your IBS? Because you're going to need a customized plan. I tell you, every patient I see is different. And so there is no way that you're going to get a one size fits all. Just, hey, just do this or take this and it's going to solve all your problems. All right. So does that get you a little bit excited about solving IBS? I hope so. And I hope you're not feeling too terribly overwhelmed, but sometimes it feels a little bit like this guy right here, like we're drinking from a fire hose because all this is new information, right? And I've been doing this for so long, sometimes I forget that we're just covering a ton of stuff. So don't worry, we'll keep going and get to something a little more juicy maybe here to hopefully help you solve your problem. So I have created a package. Obviously, we have a system that we've put together over years and years and years, and created a package for people who really are ready to do that and really solve their IBS and get their life back. And I know that you guys need this. I mean, I know that that's why people are listening. That's why people are tuning in, because they need it. And, nobody wants to just watch presentations on IBS just for fun, right, on during the day. And I want to help as many people as I can here today. So I'm going to ask your permission to share this with you. I hope that's okay with you. And I'll walk you through what that is. And it'll just take me 10 minutes or so. And we're going to get right to it. This is, that's just nobody. This is my team, or part of my team. These are a bunch of people that I work with. Fantastic people, some really great doctors and dietitians and medical assistants and all that. And I thought you might enjoy this fun photo we took at one point. That's what we do to IBS. We're just going to hack it, get rid of it, ninja it. Anyway, that's my fun team. And that's the office I'm in, actually, right now, doing this, just in one of the back rooms. So the first thing that you're really going to need, in my experience, is multiple appointments and some time to spend with an IBS doctor who specializes in this. And that's what we do. We create this system so that people can do that, so that our patients can do that, because that's what's going to help them get better. That's where we see them be successful. So we've designed this like this. And this, of course, has a value that I'm going to put to it because it's so critical to helping you get better. And I want to show you, though, some examples of some people who've been through this. And here's our airline pilot, actually. And this is Chad. It kind of fell off the bottom of the screen, and I apologize down there. Chad was from Dallas, and he's an airline pilot, and he wrote this lovely, story testimonial afterwards. And he said, he was losing his career. I mean, it was just sad. He was like so frustrated. He was worried that he was literally going to get fired. And everywhere he went, there had to be a bathroom. And when you're locked up in a cockpit, you can't always just leave and go to the bathroom. And he was just so frustrated and so willing, just to say, hey, I will come do this. And this was back in the days when we saw everybody in person. We've been, for the last several years, though, we've been actually doing this virtually, and it doesn't matter where you are. But it was so cool to see him get better, because then he didn't have to worry about his job. He was able to relax, do the things that he needed to do. And it's fantastic. And it's so rewarding to see these patients who have these nice stories and are doing so much better down the road. And really cool. And he was in lots of doctor's visits and all that, and we were able to put an end to all that so that he could get back to his normal life. Here's another story I want to share with you. This is Susan in Colorado. Susan's super cool, and I love Colorado because I grew up in Colorado, and Colorado's awesome, of course, right? Because what do you want to do in Colorado? You go hiking, and you go biking, and you go mountain biking, you go skiing. You do all these really fun things in Colorado, that because it's such a wonderful state. And she wasn't able to do all that stuff, right? And I hate it when people can't do these things that they want to do, because I can relate. I mean, I'm really active too, and I've been there with my own IBS. And it was so touching to hear her, and see her afterwards when she just said it was so amazing. And when she looked back on what her life had been like and how much it had changed, she didn't realize how much she had been limiting herself, how much she had not been doing because of her IBS. And it was just really cool and really touching when she shared that with us. And you can see her short story right here. Then there's another one I want to share with you. This is John from Chicago. And John, the same kind of thing. He's had all these tests, like a lot of you have, and a lot of people have, nothing showed up. And that's one of the frustrating things is you go through all these tests, you think, well, for sure, something's going to show up. And then they look fine. And you're like, well, what the heck? How, and then you start to think it's in your head, because if the tests look fine, you think, well, it must be in my head. But he says, no, he knew it wasn't in his mind. He's very determined, kind of stubborn like me. And he said, it's frustrating, obviously, not finding out what the problem was. But he came and he saw us and we worked with him and he got better. And it's super cool because he's doing so well. And he's in Chicago. And so it doesn't matter where people are. It's we can be just as effective regardless, whether they come to us in person or we see them virtually. And nowadays that's super convenient. We're seeing people virtually all the time. And we have for many years, though. It's certainly not something new. So these are really nice stories, and I wish I had time to even share more stories. But what I want to do is just tell you that who is this really for? This, this offer, that what can we do? What kind of people can we help with IBS? So it's just about any age, really. I mean, from 10, or I've even had patients younger, to 95. I mean, literally yesterday I had 3 patients 70 and above. If you've got IBS, if you've got chronic abdominal pain, if you've got urgency, if you've got constipation, if you've got diarrhea, or maybe you don't really fall into any of those categories and you think, man, I just know I have problems because whether you just can't evacuate properly, your bowel movements, they don't classify it as constipation, it's not really diarrhea. Still, all falls under that umbrella of IBS. We work with all those patients. And a lot of these patients too have nausea, heartburn, reflux, all these kinds of things, often go hand in hand. So no surprise to us. So back to what this is. So if we're working, whoa, what happened here? So what I could put a value on this of working with an IBS specialist of, who's spending a few months with you, really getting into the nitty gritty of something over $5,000. I mean, we just got to give this some kind of value because it's such a big help to people. And if you're getting your life back and you're changing your everyday routine, that is worth a lot, right? I mean, I would think it's worth a lot. It was worth a lot to me just for my own personal well-being. And shoot, and I went to medical school and spent 6 figures just trying to figure it out, and it still didn't help. All right, but you need more help than that. We need to do more than that to help you. So one thing we want to do is give you a personal nutritionist who's going to work with you. And I know what some of you might be thinking. You might say, you know what? I've seen a nutritionist, right? Some people are like, I've seen a nutritionist or a dietitian. What is this going to do for me? Well, I can tell you, we make all of our patients work with one of our dietitians because the outcome is so much better, no matter who you've seen before. Because this dietitian, the people or the ones that we have, are IBS specialists. They only do IBS, and they work hand in hand with our IBS specialist doctors. So they know exactly what's going on, and they've seen tons of IBS patients. And we don't just say, oh, we specialize in IBS and 10 other things or 20 other things. We specialize in IBS and those under the umbrella digestive problems. That's it. So if it makes a big difference when you're working with somebody like that, and in a program where we've worked with over 10,000 people, that makes a big difference than working with another dietitian who's not familiar with our system. And what the whole goal, obviously, right, is to get you to be able to do all these things that you're not able to do. I want you to be able to hike, be able to bike, be able to go to national parks, right? To go exercise, to walk your dog, to just get out and be able to go in the car somewhere and not have to worry, and get rid of these unpredictable days and these missed family activities and missed social events and all these extra doctor visits for IBS that aren't getting you anywhere. I mean, some of you ER visits, right? I mean, how many of you have been to the ER for your abdominal pain or for your IBS? See that all the time. You're spending money on supplements that aren't working, co-pays, medications that haven't cured the problem, and then often come with a lot of side effects, missed work days, all kinds of stuff, right? There's a lot of stuff I want to help you. And I've just spent so many years trying to sort this out and been able to do that and run through so many different things to help people that now we have a system that we know how to help narrow it down faster rather than it taking years. We can do it in a short amount of time. So that's what I want you to know is you can shortcut all of that, all those roadblocks and things that we had to study. And I don't want you to reinvent the wheel. And one of the parts of that is getting this program, getting the dietitian along with the doctor. And we value that at least $7,500 just to get your life changed. All right. But that's not it. We got to do more things. We got to assess your complete microbiome. Now, I don't have time to get into all the details of what that means, but your microbiome is everything that's going on in your gut. It's everything. It's that whole ecosystem. And we need to know what's going on in there. And we have tools to help figure out what is going on in there so that then we understand better how to deal with it. That's a huge thing that we do here, a key part of our program. And that will help us get the quickest results that we can for you. So if you do all of this and invest in all this, you're going to get that as well. And we value that at over $13,000 because it's a huge thing. And I have spent years and years not only running various tests to figure out what works, I visit labs to figure out how good they really are and what they're doing in the lab. I not only do that, I split samples and send them to labs to see if we're getting the same results, because that's how you know if the lab's really good. I don't meet anybody else who does that. We actually test the labs to make sure that they can give us the results that we can count on, that our patients can count on, so our patients can get better. All right. We got to do more than that though, right? We got to do other things too. We got to figure out, and this I think is really unique to us as well, is what's the difference between, do you have food allergies? Do you have food intolerances? Do you have food sensitivities? Because all of these things impact you differently. They all have to be treated differently. And they're all part of the program is sorting through what those are. Because I see those words misused all the time. People are often calling an allergy an intolerance or an intolerance an allergy or something else sensitivity, and mixing these things all up and then treating them very differently than they should be. And that can hold you back from actually getting better. And that's one of the big keys. So part of doing that, of course, that's a huge value, I think, as well. And I value it at over $18,000. Now, don't worry, we'll get there. But that's just another thing that's super critical to what we do here as part of our program at the IBS Treatment Center. Now, this is all of that. I don't know how well you can see this because of the what we had to do here with the monitor and all that. But this is a summary of all that. We got to do other things too. We got to measure your enzyme levels so that we know, do you even need enzymes? We got to measure your probiotic levels so we know, do you even need probiotics? We got to measure your gut inflammation to see what's really going on in there. And there are tools for all of this. And you can do all of this from home. So you don't have to travel anymore. You could save all that money on traveling, hotels, airlines, or whatever it is. Plus, it's almost impossible anyway, right? When you have IBS, traveling is totally a pain. And we don't want you to have to do that. Plus, miss work for doing that stuff. And we want you to get your life back. And, it sounds funny, but I totally believe it. I mean, it's priceless. I mean, I dedicated my life to getting my life back and helping other people do it. And it totally has been priceless for me. So granted, I mean, how do we put a price on all that? But I put a price and I just said, hey, and I don't know how well you guys can see this. I said, I can value that at over $25,000 for all that. Now you might go, whoa, $25,000. Okay. So obviously that's not what I'm going to charge you and not what we charge. But if I did charge you $25,000 and all of this stuff worked, would it be worth it? I mean, if you got your life back, didn't have to do any of these things, anymore that you're doing now. You could go and do all these other things, right? You didn't have to go to the doctor visits and take all these other crazy things and these medications and, you know, all the stress that was being caused by your IBS. Would it be worth it? I mean, if it only worked half that well, would it be worth half this much? You know, would it be worth $10,000 just to knock it down 50%, right? I mean, there's a lot of value in getting your life back. At least I think so. So the bottom line, though, is we don't have to charge you $25,000 or anything like that. We could do all these things and you could benefit from the whole entire program and all the years of experience that we put into this for way less. We can do all of that and we can do it for $2,500 and you can get started with this right now. And I have done something that I've never done before, but I'm excited about. So I have reserved for the first 10 people that that call and sign up and get started. We'll start you up next week. We'll get you in the schedule. So we've got the slots available. You don't have to wait months. You don't have to wait forever. I know how it is. You know, a lot of doctor stuff, it just takes for, you know, you're like, yeah, I'm going to go see him in whenever, you know, in 2-3 months. Nope, we can get you started next week. And this is our number. It's 206-264-1111. And you can call us. And I want to say operators are standing by. Not really. My medical assistants actually are. They're the ones that answer the phones. And they can tell you all about what we do. And, you know, you've heard it all, though. You know what we do. This is it. This is how we do it. And we just need to get you going so we can get you better. Because the longer you wait, then the more time you lose and we lose. And I want to help you. I want to help people get better because that's why I do this. That's why I got into IBS. I mean, you got to be passionate about IBS, right? I mean, why else would you get passionate about treating people and poop problems? And so I hope that we can do that. And I hope that this was really informative for you because I think this can change your life because I've seen it change literally thousands of people's lives dramatically over the years. And that's what I live for. I mean, that's why I do it, right? I want to see people's lives change. So first 10 people that call us, we'll see you next week. And if you're not top 10, don't worry. We'll get you in the list and we'll get you in soon. But give us a call and we'd love to help you out. And I thank you very much for listening today. And I'm going to come up here because I bet there are people who've got questions. Oh, here's one on insurance. So people are asking about insurance and does insurance cover that? And then people often do get reimbursed by their insurance. So you have to check with your insurance company and find out. But what we do is give everybody all the paperwork they need to file with their insurance company and get reimbursement. So that's one of those things where I can't speak for whether or not your insurance company is going to cover because that's your contract with them. But that is something that is often the case. Here's somebody who says they have IBD with a bowel resection as well as IBS. Yeah, you know, I've seen patients like that as well. And that's one of those things where often there's two different conditions overlapping. And the IBS may still be very treatable. In fact, it might still help your IBD. So it's not unusual to get those kinds of patients. In fact, it reminds me of some patients have been diagnosed with things like Crohn's disease, but they don't necessarily see ulcers. And they say, well, we think you have Crohn's. Turns out a lot of times those people really have IBS, and that's what we help them solve. Says, what do you do about chronic SIBO? That's a really great question. I love that one because SIBO is one of these things that a lot of people have been diagnosed with, right? But they feel like they keep bumping their head against the wall with the treatment because the treatment's not working for them. And the reason the treatment's not working is because something's missing, right? It's not just the SIBO that's the problem because you're actually doing the SIBO treatment is my guess. But you're so locked into the fact that you still have symptoms that you think, well, I must not be getting my SIBO treated properly. And that maybe we do deal with that as well. But my guess is there are more pieces to the puzzle than just that. And that's why people aren't getting better necessarily when it's SIBO. But then they get stuck on this idea that it's chronic SIBO and they're never going to get better. So you want a simple way to help IBS without making an appointment at my center. And I'm serious. If I could tell you how to help your IBS, I would just tell you, but it would be a giant lie. Like I would just be selling you some supplement that you don't need, that's not going to help, or some program that's not going to help. If you really want to get better, you got to work with a specialist who will actually sit down, spend a ton of time with you, and work through what's really going on, because IBS is not one of these simple things, one size fits all treatments. If that's what you want, right, then you're going to be struggling trying to figure out an answer for that. Let's see. Somebody asked, how does everything work if you're not local, logistically and financially? So we can make sure that you can get all of the testing done either at your house. Well, that's whatever. We just make sure everybody gets it done at their house, and we have a program for that. And it's actually incredibly simple and straightforward. So they don't have to worry about that. They don't have to figure out how to get that done. Let's see. Somebody says they have celiac and microscopic colitis. Yeah, that's a really great question too, because microscopic colitis is another one of these terms that's a lot like IBS in that it really doesn't tell you what's going on. If you break it down, it just means you have inflammation, itis, in a microscopic level. That's it. That's all it tells you. It doesn't tell you why you have it. So it's the same kinds of issues that go into solving IBS, go into solving microscopic colitis. And love working with those patients too. Our docs are really good with microscopic colitis because it's another one of diagnosis that doesn't give you answers. And we need to give you answers. We need to solve it. Let's see. I got so many questions, a bazillion questions. Give me a second. I got to figure out how my scroll works. So there it goes. It's going. Wow, so many. I won't be able to get through all these. Somebody asked about, well, yeah, I'm not gonna try to address that. That would need to be too personal. Somebody says, does it make sense to do microbiome analysis to solve SIBO? So SIBO is part of your microbiome, right? SIBO is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And that's part of your microbiome, is the bacteria in your small intestine. So yeah, it's all tied together. And SIBO is definitely a legit problem. It's just that it's been one of the things that's kind of been oversold, that essentially, hey, most IBS is SIBO, therefore everybody's got SIBO. And it's not nearly that simple. It's a lot more complex than that. Somebody asked, what would an appointment be like? So that's a great question. So when we do these virtually, they're actually a lot like this right here. You're talking to the doctor, you're on a Zoom link, and you're going through, at first they want to know everything about you, everything you've done, all the other treatments you've had, all the exams you've had, the tests, the things that you've been doing and working with, and what have you learned, all your symptoms, right? All the whole problem. We need the whole story. Because if we don't know all of that, then we're not going to be able to narrow things down. So we need to know all of that. So that takes time. That's what the first visit is like, is where we're gathering a lot of information, asking you a lot of questions about your condition, so that then we can start to make some intelligent recommendations from there. So it starts that way. But it's a Zoom link, just like this. Talk to each other, and work from there. And then we do everything by mail. We can ship you whatever. If we got to do testing, we figure out how to make that happen at your house almost always. And we have great success with that, and we've been doing it for years. It's not something we just started doing this year. We've done that for a long, long time because we've had patients from so many different places. Let's see. Other questions. These are really great questions. And if you've got more, or I'm not getting to yours or not answering your question, you give us a call and talk to my team, and they'll be happy to address your questions, because that's something that we do all the time. That's just what we're always doing, is talking to people out there who are suffering with IBS and answering their questions about these things. All right. Well, I want to thank you all for attending. And I hope that this at least gave you hope that you can get an answer, you can solve IBS, if you get the right kind of help and the right attention. You get somebody who's an IBS specialist who really focuses on that. And I hope that will change your world and hopefully change your life. So thank you so much for attending. I really appreciate your time, and hope you have a great day.